The Stack. People, Business, Technology. With Dan Tomaszewski of Everything MSP.
Hello, everybody. Dan Tomaszewski here. Hope you are all doing great. Welcome to another episode of The Stack, where we focus on people, business, and technology. In this episode, we're going to dive into an important topic that doesn't always get the spotlight that it deserves, and that is Mac security, Mac OS security for MSPs. We all know that Macs have historically flown under the radar when it comes to cybersecurity, and that's rapidly changing. Now, we know that more executives and developers are relying on Mac OS devices, and attackers are starting to pay attention to this, and MSPs need to do the same. So, we're going to bring in our guests from ThreatLocker, and I'm very excited to bring in, we've got Slava, Konstantinov, and I just said it completely wrong. And can you?
No, you're good.
We'll have you correct that one. And we have Amanda Makowski. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. And actually, because of my, messing up of your last name, I'm going to have you say it correctly for us.
Okay, so I'm Slava Konstantinov,
There we
and
go.
I'm Mac Security Chief Architect at ThreatLocker. So basically, in charge of all of the Mac development and everything related to Mac.
Awesome. So you are the Mac god when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That guy.
That guy. And Amanda, how are you doing today?
I'm very well. Dan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. And if you give us a little background about your role at ThreatLocker.
Absolutely. So I'm a solution engineer with ThreatLocker. My role is really broken into two core pieces. One, telling people that never heard of ThreatLocker or only passed by heard of it, how the product worked and what it can do for them. So a deep dive demo live. And then after a partner decides that they truly like ThreatLocker, want to implement in their environment and sleep better at night, I'm there every step of the way to build those policies and help make sure we're adhering to best practices. So they're technical resource that's permanently assigned with their account.
That's awesome. And it was great to see you guys both just a few weeks ago at Zero Trust World, an amazing event. It was jam-packed. You guys, you got to be very proud of pulling off another great event.
Absolutely. That actually increased. Last year we were sitting at, if I have my numbers correctly, about 900. This year we were about 1,700.
16, 17. Last year, I guess it was 800 or something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
So nearly doubled attendance as far as, and that wasn't including ThreatLocker staff or any vendors on site trying to sell their products and services. That was actual attendees. So in fact, we've grown so much and we already have so many people pre-registering for next year that we have to move it to a bigger location.
Oh, wow.
A whole new location for even next year. So it is a great resource as far as technical because it's hands-on learning. We actually call it a learning event instead of a conference. There's hacking labs. We did rubber duckies and we've done flipper zeros before, Metasploit labs. I think Slava did a wonderful one where he was showing his app he built and how he could steal passwords off of a Mac really pretty easily. So it's always about, if you know how the bad guys are coming in, you know what you need to do to protect your environment and the environments you manage from them.
Yeah. And I tell you that the hacking lab was amazing. What was wild though is the lineup. I mean, it just went on and on and on. Like people were waiting to get tickets for the next big concert, and that was cool. But just all the computers that you had there, that hands-on learning, really is a differentiating factor to what you guys did. So that's very cool. Let's jump into things. As we talked about with the rise of Macs in business environments, MSPs can no longer afford to treat Mac OS like an afterthought in their security stack. And, we do know that Macs are becoming more common for executives and developer roles, and attackers see them as a high value target. So with that being said, How should MSPs adjust their security strategies to better protect these macOS endpoints for their clients?
I think pulling it towards no longer an afterthought. It's no longer on the back burner. We need to pull it forefront and make it, hey, this is something that bad guys are actually recognizing. I remember when I was at the MSP before coming here, we had a client that dealt in pain management. So HIPAA, RIA, right off the gate, right? Patient vital
Yeah.
records. And there were 3 Macs in the environment to look at MRIs. We didn't have security tools we could put on there. We hadn't taken the time to invest in those tools at the time. And it's one of those of now it's no longer one endpoint that's randomly on a couple of days of the week. It is, like you said, the CEOs, the developers, those key high value targets. So instead of you just getting the marketing person that's doing some creative design, now you've got actual decision maker information at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And so we have to highlight that you don't have to have a whole nother suite. You don't have to have a whole nother portal to log into. You don't have to really learn in and outs of something else when, hey, we can do both.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people, I'm sorry, a lot of
No,
people,
go ahead.
they think that Macs are super secure out of the box. Actually, I saw the Apple ad in the Instagram or something like that. I was browsing and it's just like super secure out of the box. I was like, okay,
Right.
it's pretty good. It's pretty good, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say super secure. Okay.
Yeah, I think that, that misconception, from the very early days, where, nobody wants to target it because, why, because everybody said, well, why are Macs not, such a target? And it, in the early days, it was because their market share was so tiny, bad actors wanted to hit the masses. And, but as, their market share has increased, it's even more critical. But also too, I think in a lot of environments, the Mac, there might be one Mac, like you having a client and there's like someone's got a Mac for some reason, maybe they're a designer and, it's disconnected from the network, so there was more, that disconnection from the rest of the network where, if there was something, it wasn't going to have an impact, but now they're part of the network, it's no different than, a Windows-based machine. And of course, in today's world of, more cloud-based, it's everything's connected, right?
And you're weak as your weakest link. So if your
Yeah,
Mac is unprotected, they can breach your whole network basically by breaking your Mac.
exactly. And so definitely critical. Now, so as we take a look, a little bit deeper here, a lot of MSPs still run that Windows first approach, and that often leaves those, Macs out in the cold. What are the biggest mistakes that MSPs make when it comes to securing a Mac, and how can they ensure, centralized patching, SIM and EDR integration, and up-to-date software for those macOS clients?
So really bringing it back into the forefront again, right? I mean, the concept of it is okay because it's a Mac, because it's secure out of the box, right?
Right.
We can't rely on that. And so having tools in place that can give you that clarity, give you that visibility, and not make your techs log into 2 or 3 different portals to accomplish that goal, that definitely helps making it easier to secure those environments when you know the tools that you have in place.
Yeah. Absolutely. Slava, you want to add to that?
No, honestly, like you need to have specific tools. So Mac is not super secure out of the box. Let's
Yeah.
clear that.
Yep.
So I mean, it's honestly, it's really secure. So if you're smart enough, you're gonna be not like I wouldn't say smart. Okay, I would say like careful enough. Okay,
Hmm.
you're a little bit more secure than Windows, right? But
Sure.
still, at the same time, there's so many ways to breach Mac that like there's supply chain attacks. There's a malware you can just download file and run it, by yourself. There's 0-day vulnerabilities that basically they can breach your Mac security. You can go to the website and it can hack your Mac. It's not just Mac, it's any operating system, but it's like one
Right.
click vulnerabilities when you just press the button like go to website, and that's it, you're done. So
Yeah.
never underestimate the security. That's
Yeah,
very
and I
fun.
think the whole out of the box, being secure, we used a term we kind of coined in one of our marketing pieces a while back. I would say secure-ish, right? They're secure-ish, and secure-ish, unfortunately, is not good enough. And with that being said, there's some MSPs that, assume that Mac's built-in tools like Xprotect and MRT are good enough, but it's a dangerous mindset. So what should MSPs consider adding to their security stack to truly protect those macOS users?
Obviously, you should add something like EDR or zero trust, like threat locker, right?
Yeah.
Amanda?
No, absolutely. Same thing. Implementing that zero trust, that's a buzzword at this point. I feel it's become almost so watered down. I almost like to replace it with least privilege, right? When we can take that approach to what applications are running, but more importantly, ring fence those applications and restrict how they behave. Because normally in an attack, it's not that somebody clicked on something that caused a problem. Then it laterally moved to PowerShell for Windows, right? There are still programs like the PowerShell on Mac. Slava knows this much better. That's,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
so glad he's
terminal.
here.
Yeah.
Terminal.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm like,
There
pull
you
my foot out my mouth for me, Slava. Yes. Terminal for Mac. It's the same thing as PowerShell for Windows, right? And if we can
Right.
restrict where it goes, what it touches, and what it can do, can it reach out to the internet? That adds wonderful barricades between the bad guys and sensitive information. So implementing a tool and restricting down to really only what is needed in the environment can run, and everything else being blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I showed the demo on a ZTW, like just basically the regular app. They can breach your system. They can have escalated privileges without even user even know about that. So a lot of people were saying like, oh, it's a social engineering, but there's apps. There used to be an apps that were distributed through the Mac App Store or something like that. So of course, user download and run it, but at the same time, do you know what your app does? If you don't trust your app, as Amanda said, we have ring fencing, so we can just
Yeah.
put the barriers and saying like,
Right.
oh, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. So this simple as that. Social engineering is still one of the most uh, things that user fall into.
Yeah, and I think too, our clients look to us as being the experts, and if we, if we aren't prepared, because we never know, the next lead that comes in, that next opportunity, maybe it's a full Mac environment, or maybe they have only 10% of their computers are Mac environments. We have to be prepared today. We don't want to be scurrying around trying to find a solution when that comes in, because when you have an opportunity to bring on a new client, you want to onboard them as quick as possible, and you want to have a tool in place that you know how to use before you bring them on board. And so I just think it's so critical that we take the bull by the horn and say, even if we don't have any Mac OS devices today, we need to prepare when they do come in, and you just never know. So I guess another thing that I wanted to chat about is those fileless attacks becoming more common, especially tools like Apple Script, launch agents being misused. What specific steps should MSPs take to detect and prevent these stealthy, living off the land style type of threats?
So first of all is 0-day. If you cannot run something, it's not gonna run. So
Right.
it's easy as it is. right? So if you download something, or your user, right? User is the weakest link usually, and
Right.
they download something that it was not approved by their engineers or IT guys, right? So they download it, they run it, breached. So
Yep.
how something can be put into your system like a launch daemon or something like that. So it's either 0-day vulnerability, either or something like downloading an app that just does it. And
Right.
if threat locker, for example, 0-day, if we're even if it's installed and it tries to run, we're just gonna block it because we have no idea what is that. So it's we never trust anything that we don't know.
Right. And go ahead, Amanda. Okay.
Just even tools, Mac is using more and more components that not necessarily in-house developed by Mac, right? You can run your Office on Mac, which is Windows components, and it has its own set of vulnerabilities that come into your Mac device, right? So that lateral movement, the two biggest pieces stop anything unknown from running, that zero trust, and then stop the trusted things from running when they go out of the usual. And that goes back to the ring fencing, limiting that behavior of even those known trusted devices on how they can work in the environment.
Well, another thing too is, we take a look at, Windows-based devices. We know how that they're locked down, and end users aren't able to just install whatever they want. But I think, when we talk about Mac environments, I mean, you still have that capability of locking it down, but I mean, our Mac users end up giving a little bit more leeway in some of those times, some of those cases. Are you finding that at all, or not necessarily?
Look, so if you have like you have everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people, they we have like iPhones, right? And every time you install an app, it asks you for some kind of permission. And you
Hmm.
always allow, not always, yeah, but a lot of people, most of the time, they just allow it. Same with
Right.
Mac, it's restricted. It has like file quarantine, it has notarization, code signing, like gatekeeper that
Yeah.
try to protect you, but at the same time user will allow it
Sure.
most of the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's just where we got to be careful,
Yeah.
because that Mac should be treated no differently than a Windows computer, and so the mindset needs to be the same. And I think especially for an MSP that might be newer with supporting and managing Mac environments, you have to still make sure that you're able to properly manage it, because otherwise, it's like taking on an area of the business that you just don't have the experience. It's outside of your wheelhouse, and then you could end up falling flat on your face. And so I guess, moving on from that topic, Macs are so central in development environments. We've seen a rise in supply chain attacks that are targeting tools like Homebrew and Xcode. How are MSPs, how can they better secure their macOS dev environments and guard against those type of, threats?
I mean, same answer, zero trust. Do not let people run whatever they want.
Right.
I mean, like, there's a lot of kind of, as you said, kind of attacks. People just saw on a GitHub, there's open source project. It has, so user install it, run it, and it may run some script on the background while it's like being built or something.
Yeah.
And there's even people go to the interviews, like they go like software developer interview, they send you the project. I mean, it's not related to MSP or something, but I mean, you go on an interview, they send you the test project, you run it on your computer, you're breached. That's
Right.
super easy. I mean, like, it's social engineering, but it's super easy. That's people fall into that, and they don't check what they run. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Well, and at the end of the day, your regular end user, right? They're just trying to get their 8 to 5 hours in and out the door, right? And that
Right.
security is an afterthought. Like, I know if I click this button, I go to the next screen. I know if I click this button, it does the thing that I want it to do. And having to give them a safety net makes it easier for the MSP because they're not fighting fires of I clicked on a link again. I had someone call on our on-call queue. Hey, Amanda, I clicked on a link again. I'm like, you realize you said again in that statement, in that sentence. So you already know you shouldn't do this, right? I don't have to
Right.
have the spiel of don't do this again because I've already
Yep.
done it once, you know. So often our end users, while our biggest pain, right, we would also not exist without our end users as MSPs because that business wouldn't exist and then therefore we wouldn't, right? It's a service that goes all the way down. So being able to protect them from themselves is huge.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned our 8 to 5 jobs, and we're trying to get everything as done as possible during that time frame, and often we're too quick to click, and we're moving and grooving. We're just trying to get the job done. I just recently heard a story about a CPA that their office manager got an email that looked like it came from the Social Security Administration, and she clicked on a link, and of course it was a malicious link, and and she was just moving so fast she didn't even think about it, and and if we don't put the tools in place to be able to help protect and block that, then we're basically leading them to destruction.
Yeah, people think that 95% of the time they don't get viruses or something like that. But there's like 5% or there's even 1%. So there's always a chance to get something, especially the bigger you are, the more chances to get
Exactly.
something. Yeah.
And also, oh, that doesn't happen to us. That won't happen to our small business. That right. Pretty much every
Right.
MSP in SolarWind Orion's hit. Oh, there's no way that could happen to us. And then you're all left scrambling trying to fix something that if you had prevented in the first place, you never would have had a problem. Right.
I
Yeah,
knew
and
one YouTuber, he bought a Mac to be more secured, and like in 7, 8 months, he got hacked. His
mm,
YouTube channel. So,
oh
uh,
wow. Yeah, and it's the liability that MSPs have is tremendous, and when you think about just the power that we have, the access that we have, and just the threats, more that one to many type scenarios. Um, but when we take a look at when you run a business and you're trying to protect that business, you're doing everything you possibly can to be able to ensure sustainability of your business, for yourself as the owner, the leadership team, but also for all of your employees. But then you take a look at, you've got 50 clients, and you take let's say each client has 35 employees, and you do the math on that, and you do the math on how much payroll is going out, and if threats aren't being protected the way they should, then the disaster and the cost of that disaster is just unimaginable. And so, it might feel like there's a lot of pressure on, MSPs, and it should feel that way, because we are taking on huge responsibility, and choosing the right tools and having the right partner makes all the world of a difference.
I would agree wholeheartedly on that. Having someone on your back there with you every step of the way, kind of giving you that, hey, I may not know everything there needs to know, but my partner will, right? And so that's a wonderful part about Threat Locker because we do consider it that partnership, right? You're paired with a solution engineer that's there for the life to bounce ideas off of. And I have
Yeah.
a direct line to Slava, right? The lead Mac
yeah.
developer. I can message him anytime I want and say, hey, I'm having a problem with this. Help me look at it, right? Because at the end of the day, your clients as an MSP are why you're there, right? If you have no clients because you've been breached or because one of them been breached and then they spread the bad word, right? You don't
Yeah.
want that for you. So having the tools necessary to keep those environments secure is huge, but also who's helping you build that, who's helping you work through it, and do you have a human that you can reach out to in a matter of seconds to say, hey, something's wrong and I need help fixing it now.
Exactly. Well, as we wrap things up here, I do know that you guys have provided some great resources, and we will put those links into the comments, and so please check those out. We take a look at our discussion today. I want to, thank you both for being here and sharing your thoughts. macOS is really no longer just that creative's laptop, the creative person's laptop over in the corner. It's becoming, frontline and is a business device, and MSPs need to really work to treat it that way. So thank you very, very much for both of you for spending time with us today. And for all of our audience, I want to thank you for being here. And until next time, we will talk to you everyone soon. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Stack.